Airbnb flat, like right above River Street. It's busy party area. And I Lisa and I are not partiers. We're not late night people. I mean, I would go out and we'd come in. I would come in later than Lisa usually. She'd go in before me. I'd be coming in about 8:30. I'd have a cigar on the balcony and just watch all of the families and nice people come out as all of the partiers come in, and watched the transition, but enjoyed it immensely. What I'm saying is, in spite of us not being the late night party people that Savannah is, we enjoyed it immensely. It's got something for everyone. It is
that's
cool.
pretty cool to know that. So
Yeah.
Savannah should be on your bucket list, is
Oh,
what
God,
you're
yeah.
saying.
Wow. Yeah. And I planned the trip again with AI. I highly recommend doing that so that you hit all the right areas. Lisa
I forgot about that. You showed us how to
yeah.
do that before. That was really cool.
Dude, you could plan out your whole trip in an hour and know thoroughly what you should do. Have it, tell it when you're going, when you're coming back, and say, plan the itinerary for me. And Lisa and I, both times, when we first day of Charleston, first day of Savannah, we hit almost everything on the first day, which was nice because then we just did a bunch of bonus stuff on additional days. I mean, we saw everything and had the best time. And we both say, oh, Charlie, we both say, when we travel, we come back feeling like we've grown. You know, we come back feeling a little smarter, a little wiser. It's
That's
fantastic.
Cool.
Yeah, I
That's
really
cool.
recommend that trip to everybody.
Yeah.
Hey, buddy,
it's good to get away. You know what I'm saying? Like
it's
time is good to get out of your routine and get out of there.
Yeah.
I'm a very routine person.
Me too.
And sometimes it's really hard to get out of my routine.
I love my routine.
Yeah,
I really do.
I like mine too.
Yeah, getting up early in the morning, going to the gym, then taking Charlie to the park so he could play with his buddies, and then coming back here and going to work and all that. I love my routine. That's why I'm not a late night person. I'm a really early morning person.
Yeah. That's pretty cool, man. I love that.
And then just take the weekend to recharge your batteries, catch up on sleep, because I don't get enough sleep during the week. That's for sure.
I think sleep is something that is drastically lacking for most people out there.
Yeah, for sure.
It's
How
so
do you
important,
sleep? You
so
sleep
important.
well, though, generally, right?
I do. I have no issues. And if I ever do, it really bugs the crap out of me. I'm just not used to that.
Yeah, I hear
I get down, I lay down, and I get in my position, and within 5 minutes, I'm out. Pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool. All right. I just quickly wanted to mention that last week we had a pitch. How do you say it? Pinch hitter? Pinch
hitter.
Hitter. And so a few weeks ago, I had Dom Zinicola on the podcast, and we had a great podcast. It was a lot of fun. He has a different perspective from us. And so he and I were talking, and he's like, hey, if you ever want me to fill in for you. I'm like, dude, this Friday. I did that to him. He's like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, this trip snuck up on me. I was not prepared. And he did the podcast. I couldn't produce it till I came back from the trip. I kind of tried on my laptop. I didn't have the wherewithal or the means. So I published it just like Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah.
But it's a good podcast. It's like the Italian version of Me and You. It's Dom with his friend.
Version.
Yeah, man. It's Dom with his friend Vince Costanzo. And it's interesting because they come at it from a very different perspective. And it was both of their first podcast ever. So there's that.
Yeah.
I did some editing on it. I did a good intro, so it set the stage for it. And I thought it was very good. They come at a perspective of, let the kids handle things now, get out of the way. Whereas you and I think, and jump in wherever you want, Merle, you and I think, feel like our generation and the one before us has done such a disservice to this country that we're trying to create awareness to help right the ship, doing what we can for the whole freaking country. There's something of a duty to that. Where they're
absolutely. And Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, Dom started this blog within like the last 6 months, and God bless him that he knows his audience, and it's like his friends and family circle. That's what he speaks to, and he does, which I think, from as a marketer, niching way down like that is brilliant. It's always so he's talking to that audience, and so I don't know, like I worry about the shape of the country, that the shape that we're leaving this country in for our younger generations. I really worry about that. I don't like what I'm seeing, and it's why I love Vivek Ramaswamy so much, is I thought he's so smart, he's so aware. I thought he could, and maybe he's still going to get into the political circle here. We'll see. But I thought he could inspire these younger generations and help them feel empowered and feel that they have a voice and they have some control, so they can right the damn ship, because our generations that got us into this situation don't seem to be the ones that can get us out of it.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think that it is really incumbent on us as the elders now to be involved, because as I was really thinking about this week, Barry, that if you don't really, politics is an interesting game, right? But history repeats itself, and politics and history are completely related to each other. And if you don't understand history in the context of history, then you're sort of like a ship on the water without a radar system, or you don't know where you're going. You don't know the direction, and the paths have already been laid out. The streets are already laid out from history. All you have to do is jump on these different streets.
The right one. Yeah.
Why create a new street? There's no sense to create a new street. So the elder people have the history, and they need to be involved with the younger people. There seems to be a wall of separation between younger and older, and there always has been. And when we were younger, we had a hard time with that, but we did hear from our elders and how things are supposed to be. And I think that's very, very important that we're involved. I disagree wholeheartedly that, step out of the way and let the younger people handle this. I think the younger people need to be involved, but it's also sort of like an apprenticeship as well. They've got to be able to learn from the elders. That's wisdom. We need wisdom more than anything else here in this country.
We do. I want to add something that Dom spoke to, this kind of attitude. And I thought it was a very interesting and refreshing. I think everything, like, I really encourage people to listen to that podcast because there are some refreshing new takes on it. And his point of view was, in response to what you just said, is don't be the dad at the head of the table that does all the talking. Listen to them. And it encourages them. Let them feel empowered. Let them know they're being heard. And this isn't your world anymore. The technology has changed. The culture has changed. So listen to them. I think that what you're saying has a lot of validity to it, because I talk like that too. And I think I just did a few minutes ago. But what he said also has a lot of validity. And that gets back to what I said about why I wanted Vivek Ramaswamy to come into the forefront to empower our younger generation, so that then maybe they'll ask questions, and then we can share dialogue, and we could get through this mess together.
Barry, it reminds me, I think we're actually on the same page, because it reminds me of, when people get to be, in their 50s and 60s and beyond, a lot of the things that they're doing within business is more, they're a consultant. And as a consultant, that's what you do. You come in, you observe, you listen, you understand. You're not in charge, but you have the wisdom that you can add to the situation. Yeah, exactly. And that's really what I'm talking about. It doesn't mean that you can't be in leadership either when you're older. I'm not saying don't be in leadership. I'm just saying that older people need to be used in that capacity. And we do it all the time. Like I said, it's common sense wisdom. And I think we're kind of saying the same thing.
We're just seeing, like, for a while you can go over on this side and see that, and for a while you could go over, and it's really, you know what it is, because you made a good point there. It's about listening.
Listening is the big deal. It
It's
really
always
is.
the big deal.
It is always the big deal. It's I think that the highest level of communication skill starts at the foundation of listening.
Right, right. Merle, I have a very handy tip that I love. It's a metabolic and a sugar reducing tip. It's nutritional, but I know that you got some big stuff, and I want to know if you just want to go into that.
Well, I found these memes, and they're very interesting. We don't need sound for this, but I like them. These memes a whole lot. I thought they were very insightful. I thought we would go through these and just kind of
I
talk through
love the
these.
idea. Okay.
So this one's a good one. If and let me just back up and say there are 12 hard truths on life and psychology. So
Merle, keep in mind most people are listening and they can't see it, so do
right,
describe.
right. So we'll describe this. One is a picture of two smartphones. One of them looks like it's being called by mom, and the other one looks like it's being called by dad. And it says, if you still receive both these calls, you are the luckiest
Oh,
person in the world.
oh, I agree with that.
Man,
Oh, that
the
just got me.
power. I know, right? It's like, I wish my dad were here.
Yeah. And
But I'm
Merle, we
so,
are
so
this
happy and
year,
lucky my mom is here.
we're halfway through this year and we have been battling nothing but really hard stuff amongst our older family members. And we got more bad news just a couple days ago. And I don't want to share anything too personal. I'm just going to leave it at that. But boy, we hit 58 years old and it's just cancer and Alzheimer's and all these things left and right.
There's a lot of serious stuff to deal
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
as you come into this age, and a lot of coming to grips with reality and life. And life
And
is to be
death.
embraced, and death is part of life, and it's all of it is to be embraced. We only have this short whiff of time here, and we need to make the most of it. I remember hearing the old saying that, when you're on your taking your last breaths, the last thing you're thinking about is, man, I wish I had more time at work.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, that's very true. You know, I want to share this piece of wisdom because it's appropriate to what we're talking about. So I reference my friend Dr. Jeff Lobus a lot, and of late, and he's a nationally renowned pulmonary pediatrician, and so he's seen it all. We talk about compassion in the medical industry and how screwed up the medical industry is all the time. We talk about this all the time. But I said to him about a week ago, I was like, man, I'm just going through a lot of hardship with our families right now and facing death on a level I've never faced it before. I've faced very little of it throughout my life to this point, believe it or not. I said to him, over your long career and illustrative career, how do you deal with death? I mean, do you detach from it? You know what? He goes, no, 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 no. He goes, I've seen many, many physicians detach, been told to detach so that you don't get sucked into the whole death thing. Then I've seen other people get too emotionally attached to it and it can be crippling. In fact, what they do is they push it down. And it's
mm-hmm,
terrible. They just
mm-hmm.
push it down. He goes, what I learned to do early on is let it go through me. And he just explained that a little bit. I don't know how better to explain it, but it's like accept it. This is natural. Contemplate it. Hopefully, you realize that these people are going to a better place. Bless them and let it go through you.
Man, I
I
love that.
thought,
I like that philosophy.
me too, man. I thought it was important to share because it meant a lot to me, someone who's all of a sudden facing this a lot.
It seems like when you can accept a hard truth, that allows your brain to leverage the benefits of that hard truth. Okay,
Yeah.
we're all going to die, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Important.
here's a decision. Why don't we make the best of the time we have right now?
Yeah,
Instead
it
of, you know what
sounds
I'm
true,
saying?
but
Like
it's
there's
true.
It is true. Like, well, and we all are in charge of what we think of, right?
Hmm.
And we're in charge of what happens in this real estate that's in between our ears. And I
Hmm.
think that's something we need to take more seriously. How about this one? It is a picture of a man looking like he's rolling out a big carpet, but it's actually a street. You could see that it's got the lines in the middle of it, and it
Hmm.
says, "If you can't find a way, create one."
Oh, that's interesting because just a
That.
few minutes ago you were talking about the importance of history, and all these roads have already been laid. You don't need to
Oh,
create
that's
new
right.
ones. Yeah, and look at
How
this.
about that? And now this guy's creating a road, just what I told him not to do. But look at this. He's creating a road through what looks like a desert. I mean,
Yes, it's
there's nothing
barren.
there. He's making a path where there was no path. It reminds me of a scripture, actually, that the Lord will make a road where there is no road and a path where there is no path for you.
Mm.
If you believe in it, if you wrap your head around it, there will be a way, there will be a road, maybe a road that was already there that you didn't even know was there.
Mm.
That's what I get out of it.
Yeah, I like it. It's inspirational.
Let's move on to the next one here. This one, here's another one. This one kind of, I like it. It's a clock, and the numbers are replaced with now on every number. So everywhere
There's
on the
12
clock it
nows.
says now, and it
Yeah.
says the right time to start is right now.
Oh boy, truer words have never been spoken because those of us that get paralysis by analysis or have a problem with procrastinating, you have to realize, I've had some interviews with people that I've talked about procrastinating and overwhelm. And in both instances, what you do is you take the smallest first step, take a tiny chunk of that project that you're looking at. It may be answering an email, it's something really simple, and just do that right now. That gets you started, that gets you right back on the road because waiting for tomorrow never comes.
Well, and I also think I love that, Barry. I also think that people tend to wait until the timing is perfect. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, we got to make sure this is perfect because we got to do it perfect. And one of the guys that I like to follow, Thomas Sowell, says that,
Mhm.
you know, good enough. There's no perfection here on earth. So, pick up your stuff and start moving forward because that's how you make it happen. And I think about the show and how you had been telling me we should do something like this. And finally I just decided, okay, let's do this. And we started doing it, and it wasn't perfect.
No, we didn't even have a title for it.
We didn't even know what we were doing.
Right.
We just, hey, get some microphones and whatever. We just did it. And
It
look at
fell
this.
together
What is this,
quickly.
episode 264?
64, I think.
How
Yes.
about that? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool, man. That's
Yeah,
that's
it's
what
very
I'm
cool.
talking about right now. Like this one. I like this one a lot. It's a picture of a man in a prison, and there's a key on the floor and also a piece of bread. And
Just
and
outside of his reach.
and he's got a stick and he's trying to reach. He's got to look. This is interesting. He could reach for the key, Barry, and get the
Oh,
key and
yeah.
unlock that door and get out. But he's actually going for the bread desperately. And it says, if you keep them busy with basic needs,
Oh,
they'll forget all about the freedom they lost.
oh my God. That just speaks to North Korea right there.
It
They keep,
speaks to, yes, go ahead.
yeah, it's a political maneuver. Keep your people
Yes.
starving and then they'll always be looking for food and don't have the capacity to think about rebellion and their freedom. That's
You
a
know, it's
really good one right there.
I've looked at this 3 times now, and this is the first time that I noticed that there was a key next to the bread and that he was completely ignoring the key.
Well, when you start explaining it, the light bulb went on above my head. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like okay, this is starting to happen here in America, and we're seeing how it's the frog in the pot where it's slowly starting to boil.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You start hearing about supply chain issues, you start hearing about inflation and bailouts and those kinds of things. And when our real freedom doesn't come from people giving us a fish, it's learning how to fish ourselves and being able to take care of ourselves. I
That's
like what James
exactly
Brown
right.
says in one of his shows is that we'd rather die on our feet than live on our knees.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's a very powerful comment right there. But
Absolutely.
anyway, like that one a lot. Here's another one. It's a picture of an otter, and it looks like he's looking up and praying, and it says,
Exactly.
"Count your blessings, not your problems."
Oh, that's perfect. First of all, otters are the cutest damn things in the world. I mean,
And
they
they're
are adorable.
so playful. And can you
Yeah.
imagine an otter in a bad mood?
Yeah, right.
That's a real grumpy otter over there.
But
No one's ever said that.
let's look at the message. Count your blessings, not your problems. And what that means is we say it a lot, and it means find the gratitude. Nothing,
Yes.
yeah, nothing good comes from being in a place of bad emotion. Like trying to solve problems in a state of lack and bad emotion won't get you in the right direction. If you can find a way to get in a place of being in a state of gratitude and then look at your problems, you'll find a much more productive way out of it.
I think so too. And I love this picture. I think it's priceless how happy and content that little otter
Yeah.
looks right there.
But boy, doesn't it look like he's missing some hair underneath his chin? Did you
Yeah,
see that?
let's go back to that.
Do you
He
see
does. He does.
on his
Yeah, look at
neck?
that right there.
Yeah.
It looks like he's in a battle right there. Maybe that's
Yeah.
why
Lost
he's
the big.
thanking God he lived through that, whatever that was.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
eye on that. This looks
Oh,
good.
this looks
Okay.
good.
Now this is interesting. It's a hole that two people are in. One of them is just sitting there with his looking
A
depressed
very
and
deep hole. Yeah.
he's out. Yeah. And then there's another one that's on a rope and it looks like a root maybe in the hole and he looks like he's climbing out. And it says, life is all about choices. You can choose to play a victim or be a problem solver.
Oh boy, that's so apropos for today, especially when for the last 15 years, these kids have been taught to find their victimhood. Now, the problem with finding your victimhood is that you're always going to stay down in that hole in a state of depression while you look for your oppressors that you want to destroy. It's horrible.
It really is. And I mean, you pointed it out. Look at this little guy's face. That's he's just sitting there and he's the victim, very unhappy. This guy is figuring out a way to get out of there. He's looking up, he's got a smile on his face, he's got a light coming from him almost, and
Yeah,
you
yeah,
see this out here, right? I mean, I see this myself.
yeah,
And this guy is seen as the oppressor now
right.
because he's a problem solver. Interesting. How about this one? Some people, oh, this one is it kind of looks like Linus right here.
It looks
He's
like
in
a
a
Dr.
rain,
Seuss cartoon
kind of a
to me.
Dr. Seuss looking picture. You're right.
Yeah,
And this
he's in the
guy
rain.
is obviously he's in the rain outside. There's a guy with an umbrella on. There's another guy running out of the rain, but this guy looks very content. He's looking up into the rain. Almost some people feeling just get wet.
Okay, I'm going to say that. I think that you may
I'm
have
not sure
broke
what to
up.
say about
It says
that
some
one,
people
but
feel bad connection there. Some people feel the rain, others just get wet. I think that's the moral to the story is facing your problems head on and maybe seeing a blessing in them. I'm guessing.
embrace them.
Mm.
Embrace them. Yeah, you're embracing your whatever the situation is and finding the good in it. I mean, look, this guy is getting wet, yeah, but it feels good on his face.
You
He's
know,
enjoying it.
if it'd be like the same lesson we learned from our parents. I'll give you something to cry about. I think it's a little bit
uh,
like that.
maybe.
Yeah.
Let's move to the next one. Okay, oh, I like this one. Two people in the hospital, two men in the hospital, and they're elderly. They look like this could be it for them. And then you've got a thought bubble over each one of them. One of them is imagining all these adventurous things that they did,
And he looks
romantic
happy,
things.
very happy.
He's happy. The other one, he's imagining himself in front of a TV looking all depressed, and in other words, he didn't live his life. Every man dies. Not every man really lives.
Okay. There we go. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. Live your life.
Not a lot more to say about that one. Here's one. Balance is key in life. This guy is on a tightrope and he's balancing. He's got one of those balancing bars, and on one side is a brain, and on the other side is a heart. And
That's
so he's
great.
balancing the two. Balance is key in life, balancing what's in your brain and what's in your heart.
Yeah, intellectually, what you think you should be doing versus what your heart wants you to do. Find the balance there. Do it smart.
Sometimes there's a battle between those two things, right? Yeah, that's a very
Yeah,
interesting
sometimes
one.
it's tough to discern what is the
Yeah,
right
yeah,
thing.
you're exactly right about that. That's a good one. Here's another one. The it's called focus on the solution, not the problem. And you've got two pictures here, little boys. One of them has got a broken model airplane, and then the other one's got the broken model airplane, but he's taping it up and he's got it all
It's fixing
fixed.
it.
Again, one of them looks very upset, the other one looks very happy.
Right, right, right.
Focus on the solution, not the problem. It's a kind of a recurring scene. Focus on your
mhm,
blessings, not the
mhm,
problems.
for sure. Yeah,
Huh. And your blessings and the solution are wrapped up in the same thing. All right,
very true.
we're winding down to the last two here. This one is a paper cutout of people. Remember, people used to do that when we were
Oh,
kids.
forgot about that. Yeah,
Yeah,
those
yeah,
you fold up a piece of paper and then cut out a person and then unfold it, and it looks like a bunch of people holding hands.
yeah. I could never do that, Barry. Mine always fell apart when we tried to open it up.
Ah, I
So
don't
like,
think I
what's
ever
wrong with me?
tried.
It says the all some, and it looks like on this one, there's one of the paper cutouts has been cut with scissors, and he's free from the rest of them. And it says all some people do is complain. Learn to exit those groups.
Oh, that's a good one. And you know what? This takes me right back to Dom and Vince's podcast from last
Mm,
week.
mm,
One of the
yeah,
things that they said, what they were talking again, I do encourage you guys to listen to it because there's a lot of wisdom in it. And they were talking about the value of relationships, especially at this age, and how important that they are for your well-being. I totally agree. And they said if somebody's taking too much from you, meaning emotionally and mentally and all. If they're not good for you, if they're toxic, get rid of them.
mm,
Get rid of them. And buddy, I think whether you want to admit it or not, I think most of us have changed friendships over the years. And
boy, that's the truth.
some people want to just drag
Mm,
you down.
that's for sure. I mean, I had some friends on Facebook that I love, and I still consider them my friends, but they were very negative about the
Uh-huh.
things that I was doing, like this podcast, for example. They had
Yep.
nothing but negative things to say.
I
And
know that.
I hate that it's called friending and defriending because it's I'm not trying to defriend them. They're still my friend, but I
Mhm.
can't hear that noise all the time because it takes away from my charge in life, and so I
Yep.
had to
Yep.
cut myself out.
I totally
and
agree.
and not but if any of those people were to come to my house, I would warmly embrace them, or if they
Absolutely.
needed a drink of water, I would be there for them at any minute.
Absolutely.
But I just, these are choices that are important that you have to make.
Right. Totally agree.
Okay, last one, Barry. Best for last. This is a good one. It says, stop getting distracted by things that have nothing to do with your
Ah,
goals. And
ah,
it's a woman standing by the beach with
a
a
hot
sundress
woman.
on.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's very revealing. And there's this poor guy was driving down the road, and he has crashed his car into the fence because he was looking at that girl instead of focusing on his
Yep.
goal.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Totally get that. That's a good one right
Yeah.
there.
No, it is good. That, and in a really real world scenario that speaks to that is the internet can be
Boy,
so
it sure
distracting.
is.
So you're trying to do some research for something important that is part of your goals. Next thing you know, you're down. Who doesn't know this? Next thing you know, you're down a rabbit hole on some news site or something like that.
So
Or Reddit.
easy.
Mhm.
It's so easy to make that happen. And yeah, you're right. I mean, your goals, there's lots of different things that can be, and it could even be, hobbies that you need to, hey, I need to put this down for a minute. There's lots of things that can distract you from your goals. First, do you have goals? That's kind of an important thing to begin with, but we don't need to go down that road.
No. That's a whole nother podcast. Switching gears, I wanted to ask you, have you heard anything about the Dave Smith, Chris Cuomo debate?
No, I heard that. Well, the last I heard from Dave Smith was he was challenging Cuomo to a debate.
They had it.
They did?
Yes.
Oh my
I
gosh.
got things to share with you that you're going to love.
And First off, I can't believe Cuomo would do that.
Well, okay. So the best thing, and I was going to send it to you, but I purposely did not because I wanted to have this fun discussion.
I love that, Barry. Thank you.
So now I'm going to tell you, you should go back and listen to the last part of the Problem podcast, Dave Smith's podcast, because he talks about the debate. Now, this happened when we were on vacation, so I forgot about it. And then I listened to it, listen to his podcast before you listen to the debate. And the debate, I think, is 3 hours. So twice,
wow.
I fell asleep twice during it because I had it on while I was going to bed. So I heard most of it, and it's spectacular. So let me tell you a few things from Dave's podcast.
Spectacular.
He said, okay, so they did a live poll that you can, and 30,000 people participated. So it wasn't a small poll.
Not at all.
He said, so who won the debate? Dave won 96% to 4%. And Dave
I'm not surprised.
Dave goes, I think the 4% just accidentally pressed the wrong button. He explains, he said, because he goes, so since then, everyone has asked me, the biggest question out there was, what was it like in the green room before the debate? And he goes, and he backs up and he talks a little bit. He goes, well, first of all, he goes, I've been just completely surprised that he ever accepted to do this debate because what's in it for him? And he goes, I think he didn't really know who I was. And when he accepted. And then he said, so leading up to it, he did his research and I think he got the bejesus scared out of him. And so he said, I go to wherever this place was. It's David Bett, this really popular podcast guy who I've been hearing about a lot lately, hosted the debate. And apparently he's grown this gigantic studio, unbelievably big.
I know who you're talking about. David.
Yeah. You know who I'm talking about, huh?
Yeah, okay. Of course. I'll get his first name in a second, but
David.
Patrick.
David. Yeah. Okay, so Smith says that he arrived there an hour beforehand, went to the green room, has some snacks and some water, talking to the staff who he already kind of knows from other things. And he's like, hey, I don't know where Cuomo is, but he arrives 2 minutes before the debate. So
You're kidding me.
Right.
Okay.
So he was nervous. He was scared. He didn't realize what he got himself into. He said it looked like he was walking into a funeral. He was very somber, the hellos and everything, very somber. Anyways, here's me talking. I know Dave Smith is so angry about all of this COVID stuff. He never got the jab, was totally against it. He was right in your camp, Merle, the whole time during COVID. Preaching out against it, getting hits against him, censored, all of that battle, warned everybody about what a government takeover, this attempt that this is, and getting just lambasted by the likes of, most importantly, Chris Cuomo.
Yes.
And Don Lemon. No, dude,
I get myself all upset because I would hear Chris Cuomo talking on CNN and it would be infuriating. Like, how could you say, it looked like they were looking, him and Don Lemon looking right at me, saying these most infuriating things about how irresponsible I am and how I'm killing people here in America when they never even tested for transmittability. But these guys acted like they were the judge, jury, and executioner. And some of the things that they inspired When I think about what Jimmy Kimmel said about, hey, a guy comes in, he's vaccinated, he's having a heart attack, welcome in. A guy
Yes.
shows up and he hasn't been vaccinated, too bad, wheezy,
Yeah.
something like that. You're
Yeah.
out of here. And it's
Yeah.
like these people are murderous. So what people like Cuomo did was they inspired the general public to think murderous thoughts
Mm-hmm.
towards
Mm-hmm.
people like me, and
Mm-hmm.
they need to be held accountable for this kind of stuff. So I'm so glad that Dave Smith did this. I remember when I heard him talking about it, I thought Cuomo would never do this because Dave Smith is going to eat him alive.
He
And I'm
did.
so glad that he's just dumb enough to
Yeah.
accept Dave's challenge. He's an idiot.
I have some good clips that you're going to love. I mean, really good clips. So the first one I'm going to play is in response to Cuomo calling Dave hyperbolic by saying that the lockdowns were an act of totalitarianism. And boy, I'm just so excited to share this stuff with you. Let's see where I'm at. Yes,
I
okay.
see a
Let me
picture.
know if it's too loud. Okay.
Okay.
This is at the end.
First of all, when I describe the lockdowns that swept this nation in 2020 as totalitarian, just to be clear, I'm not being hyperbolic. When you're waking up every morning to watch your TV, to find out from your governor what you're allowed to do today, including am I allowed to go to work? Am I allowed to have a funeral for my father? Am I allowed to see my family? Am I allowed to step outside without a cover on my face? There is one word and one word only for that, and that is totalitarianism. I'm sorry. That's not slightly hyperbolic. First.
Oh my God. How do you feel? You gotta love
I think about what he said right there, and it's reminding me of I had a friend that had a friend that lived a couple doors down from me, and I just adored him. His name was Skippy, and he got COVID, and they came and they took him away, and the family said, well, where are you taking him? And they told him they had to take him to the hospital, and they said that they would probably never see him again because he was an older man. Yeah. And they didn't. They took him, and a couple days later they didn't know where he was or what happened, and they just got a phone call that he died. And
alone?
Skippy, he was alone. His family wasn't there. He's one of the nicest guys ever. He just stop and talk with me, and he was one of my first friends that I had when I moved to my townhouse in California. And I talked to him almost every day. And the coldness, how you could just take somebody away and prevent him from seeing his family. And as he's taking his last breaths, all he has is strangers and masks around him.
Yeah.
What a cold, horrible thing that happened. And these guys knew what they were doing.
And well,
how could they look at themselves in the mirror?
Cuomo's brother, mayor of New York, responsible for a lot of horrific deaths.
This exact kind of thing.
And what did they do? They used the distraction of some sexual harassment charge to get him the hell out of there before he's charged with a bunch of murders. But it's the morality of the whole thing that these people like Skippy died alone. It was
horrible.
And horrible. For a grasp at power. That's the only reason.
That's all it was. That's all it was. Well, they tried to fool us into thinking that this was all legit, and it just wasn't. It was all a big lie.
Right. Okay, so the next one I'm going to play a little bit towards the beginning. It's a longer one, and then I'm going to skip to 6 minutes and 5 seconds to get to something you're going to love and you spoke to already and you don't even realize it. And that is when I skip to the 6 minute part, that's the part where he addresses so passionately and so perfectly Cuomo and Don Lemon demonizing people like you and like him. So let me share here, make sure I share the sound and okay. And do you see the clip?
Yes.
Okay, let's start at the beginning. And I think there's about a minute I want to play.
Take on what you just said.
Okay.
No, not everyone, and not everyone who gets paid. Joe Rogan is bigger than every single show at CNN combined and gets paid more than every single person at CNN combined. And he was 100% right about this thing through the entire time.
No, he
Listen,
wasn't.
yes, he hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. Let me get this point out here.
Tell me what he was right about.
Okay, how about, you know what you just revealed last month on Pat's show about ivermectin?
Yeah.
Joe Rogan was saying that, and you were smearing him for saying that.
Yeah.
You literally said he's taking horse dewormer.
Yes.
He should be ashamed of himself. You pleaded with your audience to not take it.
Yes.
Then you come back around and you go, hey, Pat, you know what I just found out? Turns out this thing isn't for animals. Turns out humans are. But Chris, that's a 5-minute Google search and you would have known that.
First of all,
how do you not apologize to Joe Rogan?
Listen, do you know who disagrees?
All right, I'm skipping now.
So much talk that they don't want you to take ivermectin. Ivermectin is the way to go. Take it. Joe Rogan got better from ivermectin. And by the way, I don't like what people did to Joe Rogan about ivermectin. I don't like it.
You did it.
No.
You did that.
Yes, you did.
What?
I gotta just go back a couple seconds again because this is priceless. Oh, and by the way, this part of the video has gone viral. Well, okay, let's take this in.
And by the way,
Okay, I got to take a breath.
Okay.
Well, I don't like what people did.
Oh, yeah, right.
And by the way, I don't like what people did to Joe Rogan about ivermectin. I don't like
You did it.
No. Okay,
Yes, you did.
Find the clips.
Dude, find the clips. You shamed Joe Rogan.
Find the
You said
clips.
he's taking horse dewormer. You and Don Lemon were chuckling at each other about it.
No.
I'll go find
First
the
of all,
clip.
you just saw the clips.
I watched
I'm
it.
not chuckling. I'm listening to Don. But
No. The
here's
clip
point.
I'm talking about wasn't on there, and
Here-
it's absolutely
look, we
there.
were
Here, do we have it? Hold on. Let's play the
This
clip.
is awesome.
Injecting drugs for animals and horse.
And people telling them to. Oh my God. What person? You know, you talk about cancel culture and who to shame. Ivermectin, a dewormer, really?
They are shaming themselves.
That's
No one
what it
has
is.
to shame them. They're shaming themselves.
So you're taking a dewormer right now,
This
Chris.
is
Chris,
the
you can't
dewormer.
apologize for that. You weren't being clear that it was this,
right.
and you know that, dude. You're being so dishonest right now, man.
I'm not
You
being
were
dishonest.
talking about ivermectin, the drug. You were not talking about this
was-
version of ivermectin. Come on,
I
man.
was responding to a situation where we were told that this is what people were.
All right. That's enough. You see what it is. I highly encourage you to watch that debate because, Merle, you in particular will get such a sense of satisfaction and vindication from it. You'll love it. Dude, to have Dave Smith represent you there, it's awesome. And he also said in that his podcast, his follow-up that I also think you should listen to, he also said he felt really an obligation to do this and to do it right because no one else, all of the players like Fauci and he named some other ones that were the heads of this whole totalitarian press. He said nobody else is being held to task. And Cuomo actually was dumb enough to take the bait. And so this is like the only chance you ever get for vindication. And it's a damn good one.
I agree. It's hard for me to watch, actually, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
The fact that he sees the evidence right in front of him and cannot accept
Can you believe
that he's guilty of doing that.
Yeah.
How is this guy even why is anybody even listening to this guy? I don't even really understand.
I agree with you, especially the fact that he could be so arrogant and pompous using the COVID crap that he was fed, riding that wave. And now we're on the other side of it, the opposite side of it, exposing all of it. And he thinks he could ride that wave by saying, hey, I'm on ivermectin. I mean, it's ridiculous.
He himself is on ivermectin. I mean,
Did you see Lemon? The smugness, like that guy has the most punchable face. Is the most punchable face I've ever seen, and he reminds me of Joy. Is it Behar on The View?
Yeah, Behar.
Yeah. Those two peas in a pod. They're both so dumb and so arrogant that they can't see how dumb and arrogant that they are.
No, they can't. You're exactly right. And this is the problem here, Barry, is that we can see that there are people here in this country that are above the common experience that Americans are having. They're
Yeah.
elite. They're
Yeah.
not touched by the common experience here. They live in a bubble. They live in a whole different world. And the Cuomos are a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
They don't have to live by the same rules that you and I live. In fact, they seem to look at us. They seem to look down through their nose at us. They seem like they seem to think that they're better than us. The rules are for us to keep us in line so that they can go ahead about their merry business. And it's that's what tyranny actually is. That's what Dave is talking
Yeah.
about, is that this he is a part of rolling out a new world order for the United States, which is a tyrannical system. And we
Yeah.
are heading in that direction. I love that you captured that, Barry, and I appreciate that. I got to tell you, my emotions were I thought I was going to come out of my skin a couple of times when I
I
saw
bet.
that, because as I'm taking a look at what's happened with our country over the last couple of weeks since we did our last podcast, it seems like our whole country has changed. And Dave is talking about this. Uh, in the whole COVID thing, but you can see that they're brewing up a whole nother one. Get ready, because the bird flu is coming,
I've been
and
hearing.
I just saw a clip this week of Dr. Birx. Remember her? She's back in the limelight again, and she's talking about testing animals with the PCR test for the bird flu, testing people that are around these farms as well. And what's going to happen here with the PCR test is that it will produce false positives. And I say that because of the track record of the PCR test. The PCR test first arrived on the scene during the AIDS so-called epidemic, and it was showing false positives for HIV, which, if you do your research, you'll find out that HIV has nothing to do with AIDS. The HIV test, PCR test, caused a protocol to happen, much like the protocol for COVID was.
Can I ask you though, because I am not aware of this. You said HIV has nothing to do with AIDS. I thought it
Yeah.
was a product of AIDS. Please just tell me what you
That's
mean.
great. Get the book, The Real Dr. Fauci by RFK Jr. RFK Jr. does intense research on this. His whole career
He's brilliant.
has revolved around that. Yeah, he is brilliant. But what you'll find out is that the PCR, the HIV was being studied in the 70s by the Cancer Society. This was being looked at as more of a, what do you call it? A parasite. And they thought that this was something, maybe HIV had something to do with cancer. However, there's a lot of things that happened in the meantime. In the 70s, swine flu came out. They put a vaccine out there, killed 40 people. They took that off the market. They fired the head of NIH as a result. Dr. Fauci was the lieutenant in the NIH back then. He saw all this happen. They made him in charge of NIH after his boss got fired, and he learned from that. He learned how to work with the pharmaceutical companies. And what happened was, when he got a scientist to make a correlation between HIV and AIDS, and then and said that HIV was a virus that led to AIDS. And since he's in the National Institute of Infections and Acquired Diseases, or something like that, it became his domain. This whole thing has been proven to be a lie. The experiment that showed the correlation broke down. The guy that did the experiment fully admitted that there is no correlation. It's documented. It's out there. Well, what they did was they invented the PCR test to show that somebody had HIV. Then the protocol was to give them a particular drug that was very, very, very expensive. And then the drug actually produced symptoms that looked like AIDS, and then the person would die, and then they would mark it as an AIDS death.
Oh my God.
Well, that's how they learned. They also learned at the time when AIDS came out that the pharmaceutical companies got the pantsuit off of them during the swine flu thing when they put that virus, that vaccination out there. So when AIDS became this big, scary thing, Fauci got the pharmaceutical companies together to say, we're not going to make any vaccinations anymore until you take away those liabilities. And so they forced Reagan into signing a thing that said that these companies no longer had liabilities regarding vaccinations. So that was a big win for them.
Yeah.
Fast forward several years to the COVID deal, and they used the same playbook. They pulled out the PCR test with the false positives. You got the remdesivir that causes symptoms that look like COVID. They put them on the ventilator and dead.
Wow. Okay,
same thing.
You say that they're winding up the bird flu thing, and I'd been hearing about it for a couple of weeks. And I mean, the comments I all see is exactly what I think is good luck with that, folks. Nobody's going to fall for it this time. I'm not going to say nobody. There's a small percentage of people that are still wearing their masks out here. But no, the majority of people will rebel 100% against that. They might cause a civil war, basically.
So this is interesting, Barry, and I totally agree that it's going to be different this time because more people are awake to what happened. But if you take a look at what was happening last week of May, there was a convention that was happening in Geneva, and that was for the World Health Organization. And what they're doing is they're putting together a pandemic treaty.
I've heard. We talked about it, actually, I think a couple of weeks ago.
We didn't talk about it on the show. The pandemic treaty actually was voted on the last day of the conference, which was last Friday. The treaty did not pass. However, it's still being worked on. They are vehemently saying that all these concerns that people like me have are unfounded. But here's what the concerns are with this treaty. It gives them sovereignty over our country in the event that a pandemic should happen. And all that has to happen is Dr. Tedros of the WHO, or WHO, would say, hey, there's a pandemic out there. Then that would give them
we
power
would always
over
be in
country.
A pandemic.
That's right. And so if you take a look at the fact that we're heading towards an election, the WHO is a part of the UN. They want to control this country. It looks like there's a large elite group within Washington that's 100% aligned with these people. Sure. And the Biden administration was represented there at this meeting in Geneva. They want to move forward with this whole thing. And so back to this bird flu thing, if, for instance, they said there was a bird flu pandemic, sure, people would rebel against it, but the system would already be set up so that it wouldn't matter if people are rebelling or not. And you take a look at some of the things that they're looking to be able to do, like 15-minute cities, where if you leave your jurisdiction of 15 minutes, certain things shut down. Hey, your car has a computer in it, and we have 5G technology, and there are ways now that they could shut your car down or shut your bank account down. You won't have a car
because they're going to mandate electric cars. The grid can't handle electric cars, therefore you can't have one.
It's funny you're saying that because in California right now, they're getting a heat wave over there and people are starting to realize that, hey, the electric company shut down my air conditioner and it's 105 degrees outside. And so there it is like, oh, it's because, there's too many people using the electric grid. Well,
they'll blame it on Trump.
What if you have everybody's got an electric car? What do you think is going to happen? Nothing, because no one's going to be able to go anywhere.
Right.
I mean, that's some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and by the way, I said before, if they were serious about their environmental BS and making it sustainable, you would push that with hybrids. It has no effect on the infrastructure.
Absolutely. Hey, can I want to show something here because this is, I think, one of the craziest scenes that we've had here in a long time. Let me see if I can move to here it is. I saw
this. Okay, as soon as I see Biden at a podium, I'm starting to laugh already.
It's
Chronic
like we're
laughter.
classically conditioned on this, right?
Yes,
It's like, this is going to be funny. This wasn't, this was just weird.
Never
Okay?
in history have we had a president this far gone, anything even close, and people are acting. And Joe Scarborough yelling into the camera about how Biden's at his best and sharpest ever. This is insanity, man.
But something's wrong with Joe Scarborough. That's for
He's
sure.
lost his damn mind for
he
sure.
He really has. So this was Biden making comments after the conviction of Trump.
Thank you very much.
Mr. President, can you tell us, sir, Donald Trump refers to himself as a political prisoner and blames you directly. What's your response to that, sir?
Oh, this one.
Do you think the conviction will have an impact on the campaign?
Oh, that's so creepy. I've seen this many times. This is the one where he shuffles out, then stops, and this is, it's so like contrived, and he slowly turns his head and does that really creepy smile, turns his head slowly back and slowly shuffles back out. The whole thing was like out of a horror movie.
It was it seemed like it was out of The Shining.
Yeah.
Like Jack Nicholson, how he'd look into the thing, you know?
That dude's not there at all.
And then get that crazy smile on his face. I mean, what the heck? And the question was that Donald Trump is saying that you're behind the whole conviction and rigging of the trial. And he does that weird thing right there.
Yeah.
Now, this is what I'm concerned about, Barry, is that what we've seen here is our judicial system being commandeered by the executive office.
Everyone's concerned about that except the far left. They love it.
Well, and then we look at all the executive orders that come out of the Biden administration, and then you start to figure out that not only has the judiciary branch of our government been commandeered by the executive office, but so has the legislative office or the legislative branch. And so now you have everything consolidated into the executive branch. And, you know, when you look at the Trump conviction, 34 counts on this so-called crime, and now Trump is a felon, everybody is focused, it seems like, on Trump. And so what I'm seeing now is this division. It's Joe Biden or it's Trump. And if you're gonna vote for Trump, it's because you love Trump. Yeah. And if you're not going to vote for him, then good, he's a convicted felon. And I just want to level set this a little bit, Barry, because the way that I see it is this is really an attack on America in general, not an attack on
everybody
Trump or the Republican. Well, do everybody sees that?
I think so. Well, unless you're on the far left, and then because you're loving it because you got Trump derangement syndrome, and you want to save democracy by becoming a tyranny, which is the weird. I mean, it's insanity. It's insanity. But everybody that's not insane in this country, I don't like Trump. You know that I think that this is absolute insanity. It's our republic is in great jeopardy. This is unprecedented. And these yahoos have no idea the Pandora's box that they open, because when Trump does become president, he could use these brand new empirical powers. But they won't. Do you by chance have that Gates clip?
Gates. No, I don't. I have.
That's all right.
On my phone. Yeah.
But it's something that we talked about briefly last night. You and I. There's a clip out there, Matt Gaetz. How did that go? Please explain.
Yeah, he was talking
eloquent. I'd have to say.
Yeah, and he was talking to Merrick Garland about this whole thing around rigging of the system for Trump and railroading him into this conviction. And I thought it was interesting how he did this, is that he asked Merrick Garland if while he was a judge, had he ever given to a political campaign? And he said no. And he said, well, why didn't you do that? He says, because it's against federal law for a judge to give money to a campaign. And then when Gates pressed him further, Merrick Garland got wise and said, I fully realize that you're trying to get me to comment on an ongoing court case, and I won't comment on it. And Gates says, look, I can see you put the dots together here. So basically, the whole thing was showing that Merrick Garland knew how wrong he was, how wrong it is that this judge, Marchand, who is given to Biden, has a daughter that's got a super PAC that is really it's a Democrat super PAC that makes millions of dollars for the Democrats, and they actually made a lot of money off of this whole thing. This whole thing was rigged, and he got Merrick Garland to pretty much admit it. The problem with this whole thing is that that's all we're gonna get.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about last night. I said when I watched that, I was like, wow, man, there it is. Cat's out of the bag. This is like, exposure at the highest level. And my next thought was, get it while you can. I hope that feels good for you, because this is going to be the last you're ever going to hear of it. Just like Bill Clinton on the tarmac creating interference for Hillary while she's in a hearing over the reaching her servers and all that, and no one gets charged. And there is a lot more crimes that they're guilty of than just that. But I'm just saying.
Absolutely.
And so we were talking about, and I really, really wonder how complicit the Republican Party is in all this, that they know that they just go out and create some really great speeches and some really mean tweets, and everybody responds, and yeah, and then nothing happens.
And then that's it. Yeah. It's always like, this is how we just have like a session where we get it all out, and then back to normal again. And
see the pattern.
What happens? This is what the Republicans are doing, and this is why I'm more angry with the Republicans than I am with the Democrats. This is all we get.
We need two more parties. We need a center left and a center right, and that's they always the Republicans and Democrats have been, and it was since the Birdman. He looks like what's his name
Ross
with the
Perot.
charts? Yeah, Ross Perot. Yeah. He sent he sent the biggest scare into them that has ever happened on an independent level. And Tulsi Gabbard has talked at length about this. They have rigged the system so that no third party can get any kind of any traction. What I'm saying is, and I got this from Dave Smith on a Rogan podcast a long time ago. He's like, we need two more parties, center left and center right. And I totally agree with that. And you just let all those nuts stay on the fringes and let some more moderate type people in those other two. Now we're going to start having to have debates and start having to make sense. Because right now, people don't have to make sense.
Well, that's absolutely true. Well, when we take a look at this trial, a bunch of things jump out here to me. That we talked about the judge giving money. We talked about the fact that his daughter runs a super PAC. It's called Acting Justice. And this thing has made millions of dollars during the Trump trial. So she was using that to market herself and enriching the family. Of course, we saw the Garland hearings out there. Those were really crazy, but is anything going to happen? Trump had a gag order on him. I've never seen that before, where somebody needs to defend themselves, but they have a gag order where they can't actually say anything, and no one else had a gag order. He wasn't told the nature of his crime until the end of the trial, and we have this thing called the Sixth Amendment that guarantees that we be told before we even are arrested or brought in what the actual crime is. Cohen and Daniels committed crimes against Trump. It looks like Cohen admitted to stealing $65,000 from Trump, and Daniels, it looks like she signed an affidavit that said that they never had sex. She signed that. And then she wanted money because she was telling Cohen that she was going to go out and say that she and Trump had sex. That's called extortion. Trump was the victim on this one, and yet he's the one that got the felonies. The judge allows the salacious Daniels testimony. The judge does not allow the jury to understand that it is legal to pay hush money. Unfortunately, that's the truth. There's nothing illegal about that, but they didn't know that. And then they were told in the rules that if they smell a crime anywhere, they come up with a guilty verdict. They don't even have to agree what the crime was. Never heard anything like that before.
No, it's
Those
all
instructions were crazy. And then also a couple other anomalies. The number 3 guy in the Department of Justice, his name is Matthew Colanglio. He resigns from his job. He's the number 3 position in the DOJ and signs up to work with Alvin Bragg to help prosecute Trump. Mm-hmm. So Biden's guy goes down there. That is the executive office interfering in the judicial system. Right. And then it's just this is the crazy one right here that I found out is that the Senate Majority Leader, Schumer, he has a brother who runs a law firm in New York, Robert Schumer, and he's got a law firm, and let's see, Democrats would have you believe they had nothing to do with Trump prosecution in New York City, despite the fact that Biden dispatched his number 3 AG and the Democrat Senate Majority Leader's brother gave his firm's top 3 lawyers a leave of absence to join DA Alvin Bragg's team. I didn't know that. Very, very interesting right there. So when you take a look at this whole thing and then you look at what happened with John Edwards, what happened with Hillary Clinton, what happened with Biden, Hillary Clinton paid $1 million to Perkins Coie to get this research from Fusion GPS, to get that dossier.
Yeah,
she got busted.
Yeah,
she got busted for that. She got an $8,000 fine. She paid over $1 million for that.
How has anyone ever explained that? I mean that as a serious question.
I mean, that's what in the face of this, how do you not see a two-tier justice system? John, you probably don't remember this. John Edwards, he was using campaign finance money when he was running for president to support a woman that he had gotten pregnant outside of his marriage.
Yeah.
And he ended up getting indicted on 6 felony counts. 5 of them were hung jury, and the 6th one was thrown out. Nothing happened to him.
Yeah.
And then you've got Biden with the 51 intelligence officers. 5 of them were top CIA officials saying that the laptop was Russian disinformation. Mm-hmm. And it turns out that the head of the CIA, Morali, admitted under oath that Anthony Blinken, the Secretary of State, he wasn't the Secretary of State at the time. He was on the campaign with Biden. He's the one that wrote that article, gave it to those guys to sign and put it out there. A week later, Biden is in a debate with Trump, and I actually have a clip of this, but he calls it, he says, Trump accuses Biden, hey, your son has got all this crazy stuff on his laptop. Biden says that's Russian disinformation. These 51 experts said so. And, but it was him that wrote it in the first place. Mm-hmm. How is that not being guilty of tampering with the elections?
Hey, backing up a minute here to this Trump conviction. Sincere question. Don't they just appeal?
Yeah, that's what's going to happen is they're going to appeal this.
Okay,
but
so
problem
then,
is,
go ahead.
The problem is the appeal probably won't be seen until after the election.
And then assuming that he wins the appeal, then he would no longer be this, in quotes, convict, federal.
Correct. He'll be vindicated.
Yeah. Okay. Because I know they just want that buzzword for now.
Oh, absolutely. Trump was in town here yesterday in Phoenix, and the Democrats have bought all these billboards saying that Trump is a convicted felon.
Yeah, there you go.
It's happening all over Phoenix right now.
Yeah.
I want to share something here with you just to talk about that last thing that I was saying about how Biden had Blinken get with the intelligence community, wrote this paper saying that Biden's son, that was not his laptop, send it to these ex-intelligence officials, and then they wrote this article, but it was really Blinken. And then Biden referred to it like it wasn't his, that these experts wrote this, and I'm off the hook. That's a tactic that they have that Nancy's going to explain right now.
Down hospitals and the rest of it. So they don't want them to see that contrast, so they focus on something else. And it's a diversionary tactic. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You demonize, and then we call it the wrap-up smear. If you want to talk politics, you call it the wrap-up smear. You smear somebody with falsehoods and all the rest, and then you merchandise it. And then you write it, and they'll say, see, it's reported in the press that this, and this. So they have that validation that the press reported the smear, and then it's called the wrap-up smear. Now I'm going to merchandise the press's report on the smear that we made. And it's a tactic, and it's self-evident. But I think
that's what Joe Biden did. He used the wrap-up smear to get off the fact that his son had all of this stuff on his laptop. Now, just this week, Hunter Biden is in court, and the FBI admits that they know that that laptop is indeed Hunter Biden. So all of that stuff, as you and I always knew, was a bunch of crap.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this is the major threat to our country, is that this is tyranny. This is how tyranny works.
Yeah.
And something's got to be done to break this down. The problem is the cat's out of the bag now. This is an unprecedented use of our judicial system by the Democrats. But what's to stop the Republicans from doing the same thing now?
Well,
and
how about
that ruins our entire system of justice, and it ruins our whole rule of law in the United States and destroys our whole so-called democracy. Go ahead.
Oh, I agree. A question would be, like, it seems to me the Department of Justice is biased in one particular way. So you say, what's to stop the Republicans from doing that? Well, doesn't it seem like the left has kind of infiltrated CIA, FBI, Department of Justice, all the key players, not to mention the media?
It does seem that way, yes. And yes, they would have a harder time of being able to do that. However, just look, Judge Marchand, there's an interesting thing going on with that guy. He also has jurisdiction over Steve Bannon's case, who, by the way, is being told that he needs to report for jail on July 1st for contempt of Congress. Peter Navarro is in prison right now for 45 days. This is unprecedented. These guys don't get sent to jail for contempt of Congress. We've never seen that before. Navarro's the first one to go, actually, in history. Anyway, this Judge Marchand is somehow the judge over both of these cases. And Elise Stefanik has raised the scepter on this, saying, wait a second, there's all these judges in New York, and it's supposed to be a random selection of these judges. Yet both of these guys, all three of these guys, Trump, Bannon, and Navarro, well, Navarro wasn't the same guy, but these two guys get selected by the same guy. What are the chances of that? That this guy's a Biden contributor, and his daughter runs a super PAC, and he gets Trump and Bannon. And so this is it again. What the Republicans could do the same thing. They could pick out their judge that Trump appointed and railroad Biden right into a place where he's hated the most, so that the jury selection is tainted. I mean, pretty easy to do this kind of stuff. We could have them being tried in someplace like Texas. Yeah, have them tried in Texas. See what happens over there. Right. That would be unfair, and everybody knows it. And me as a conservative would say, I don't want that to happen, because that could happen to me. And bottom line too, Barry, is when we look at Trump and what happened with Trump, everybody in this country should be looking at him and saying, I'm Trump. Because really, if they could do that to him, the point is that they're trying to show you that they could put you away. You're a little man. You don't have any say so here. You've got nothing. And that's really what they want to convince us of, when really this country is based on what it says in the Declaration of Independence, that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, that among them are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But isn't it funny how, that being said, our country seems to be vehemently against any of these kinds of spiritual truths? They want you to believe that your rights come from the government, not from some man in the sky.
Right.
And that, I believe, is where the real battle here is, because if our rights come from the government, then the government can control what our rights are. And they can decide if we get to have steak or if we have ramen noodles. But God is saying that, no, you're sovereign. You're like a sovereign country, or you're a king yourself, because you're like me. And the only way that you can be governed is by your consent. But the consent has to be the consent of the governed, and it's got to be run by the people. But as you see, our government seems to want to make decisions for us.
Oh, yeah.
And when they can't make those decisions for us, they demonize us. I look at this whole Roe v. Wade thing, and they're trying to say, oh, they're stealing women's rights. They gave the rights back to the people to decide for themselves. Do we want the government to decide for us, or are we adults? Can we make our own decisions? And it seems like the federal government has been trying to say, you can't make your own decisions because you're a little kid. You don't know anything.
Well, it's the largest organization in the history of the world. That's the first problem. That's the biggest problem, just knowing that.
Yeah, you're right about that.
And you want to see something that really illustrates how far we have sank as a government. I'm sure you've seen this, and but oh, baby girl.
You know we're here about
I don't think you know what you're here for.
Well, you the one talking about.
I think your fake eyelashes are messing up.
No, ain't nothing.
Hold on.
Listen.
How dare you attack the physical appearance of another person?
Are your feelings hurt?
Her words down. Oh, girl, baby girl.
Oh, really?
Don't even play.
Baby girl,
we are going to move, and we're going to take your words down.
I second that motion.
We're not done yet.
I'm just curious, just to better understand your ruling. If someone on this committee then starts talking about somebody's bleach blonde, bad built butch body, that would not be engaging in personalities, correct?
A what now?
Chairman, I make a motion to strike those words.
I don't think that's
Hold
a
on.
part of the.
I'm trying to find clarification on what quality.
Chairman, motion to strike those.
Jeez, dude.
I felt so bad for Comer in this situation, because he's very hard of hearing. He was having a real hard time dealing with that situation because people were talking at the same time, and he's got 2 hearing aids.
Oh God!
It's like, everything was just static for him. So he was like deer in the headlights.
Well, everybody's at fault there, meaning both parties. Marjorie Taylor Greene is such a classless trailer park trash kind of a person. But at least she has the balls, so to speak, to try to make waves where no waves are being made in the Republican Party. And but she does so in all the wrong ways, blurting out things during a presidential speech and like that whole fake eyelashes comment, which just baited. I'm sure she was baiting them, and
she was.
AOC takes the bait right away. Oh, baby girl, don't you even play. She went full ghetto on that, and then so did Jasmine Crockett. But that was a good comeback, I have to say. Your bleach blonde bad
butch body. God bless America.
The alliteration on that was terrific. And I mean, and it hit. I mean, it landed. That she described was MTG, or, yeah, she described her quite well. But this is what the House of Representatives has come to.
I would say, what a bummer that the House of Representatives turned into the Jerry Springer show.
Yes, yes.
And I think that there should be a decorum there. That's what they were talking about. There is a decorum in the House. You cannot insult your fellow Congress people. And I think that's a good rule to have.
It's a very good rule.
Keep it very civil.
Professional.
And so MTG crossed that line first, and she was wrong for talking about that woman's eyelashes. And so you could see what happens. You know, Congress, this isn't new. Congress has had all kinds of feuds on the floor going back to the old days. There's a very famous congressional hearing. It wasn't a hearing. I don't know if it was a hearing or not, where one congressman, this is Civil War era, gets so angry that he canes another congressman and severely injures him right on the floor. I mean, just some crazy stuff. Yeah, if you look at that very famous movie that came out recently called Lincoln or something like that, but it actually shows that.
I think
happening.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, you've had these people have basically tried to kill each other before. So that does happen. Things get heated over there, and that's why you have these decorum rules in the first place. So I hate that these people are acting like children.
Yeah, me too. It's embarrassing, and I think the theme that we commonly have here is just about the degradation of our political structure. And
one thing I can say about Marjorie Taylor Greene, though, with all of her antics that she has that you mentioned, she does tend to bring things to the forefront that I would not have known if she hadn't acted so outrageously. And this is one of them, I guess. There are some things that she'll, out of her outrage, she'll act. And of course, the press hates her. And so they demonize her all the time. But I tell you what, a lot of times when I hear it, I'm like, oh, she's crazy. And then I listen to what she's saying. She makes sense a lot of times to me.
Agree.
I might not like how she's delivering the message, but I tend to agree with a lot of what she's saying. In fact, I kind of think she's smart. I just don't know that she's the best communicator.
I think this is a really good way and a mild way to put it. I agree. I've heard her stand up and speak very intelligently with her backs backed up. And but her delivery is just classless. And so she does herself a disservice with all the effort that she puts in the effort. And then
she really does
herself a disservice with her delivery. So.
Yeah. That's funny how it all works out right there. I kind of like seeing people when they're at their raw state, that because it kind of tells you exactly who they are. And it's really something. Hey, I wanted to bring something up here. Let's see if I can pull this. I was looking at something the other day where it was talking about job interviews for young people. And there was a survey that was done recently. I'm trying to see who this survey is. 800 employers wrote this. It was during job interviews, employers say recent college grads have, and there's like 6 things. 1, struggled with eye contact, 53%. Asked for unreasonable compensation, 50%. Dressed inappropriately, 47%. So half the people coming in that are recent college graduates don't make eye contact, ask for unreasonable compensation, and dress inappropriately. Here's the next one is they used inappropriate language, 27%.
Wow.
They refused to turn on camera during a virtual interview, 21%. How many times have we talked about this, Barry? When are they going to get the point? But the last one is the best. 19% of them brought a parent to their interview.
Oh my God. Whoa. This speaks to the coddled generation.
It really does.
I see that Charlie tore up a hat back there during our podcast.
I saw that too.
So speaking to that, I'd say, okay, so you're talking about college grads. One thing I wonder is if you did this study 20 years ago, I wonder what the percentages would be like, because you're talking about people right out of college, they're green, they don't know what they're doing, and they're inexperienced in the interview process. So I think the numbers would still be on the high side a little bit because, but they're higher now, I'm sure. And I mean, that's the point. I mean, we know about asking for too high a conversation because they feel entitled. We've been hearing that for years now.
Yeah. So I think that, I can't imagine our day asking for unreasonable compensation and dressing inappropriately or using inappropriate language.
Inexcusable.
That seems to be a new thing. I can see struggling with eye contact. Yeah. However, my dad was just relentless on me regarding that as I grew up. So that's a parent thing right there. You should be able to make eye contact by this time. And but and then I refuse to turn on camera. This is a new world problem right here. Yeah. That but yeah, it seems like they're so incapable of socializing that the camera thing is a deal. And then I don't know that any of my friends brought their parent to any one of their interviews when we were kids. I don't know, Barry. This seems it seems like some new stuff.
Well, okay. Now, also, let's just say, was that parent like in the waiting room, because they gave them a ride and
probably
I don't mean sitting next to the person.
Yeah. Meet my mom. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be bad. But I think it's made to lay it out there like that.
Hey, Barry, have you heard about this woman that got elected to the presidency in Mexico?
No.
Yeah, she's the first female president. Her name is Claudia Sheinbaum, and she's also Jewish.
I feel like I vaguely heard about that. At first blush, I had to say I feel for her because the cartel really runs Mexico.
It does.
So I would worry about her.
I think that there's a lot of worry to go around here because if you take a look at this election, first off, this woman seems to have come out of nowhere. But that's not true. As I did my research, it looks like she has been the right-hand woman of the current president, who is very popular there. He is President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, and he's been president for some time, and she's been right there with him. And so she's very well known. She ran a large part of Mexico City, the largest part of Mexico City, where 80% of them live in that city for some time. So she's been very popular. And the fact that she's Jewish is very interesting because Mexico is like 99% Catholic. So that's going to be very interesting too. But this is the more interesting part to me that is not in the news at all, Barry, but it is that Mexico, this election was a bloody election. As a matter of fact, it says Mexican candidate assassination's grim record ahead of Sunday's election. 37 candidates were assassinated during this election process.
Wow.
Over 800 of them were assaulted during this election process. Let's see here. The last assassination happened only a day before the election. One of the mayoral candidates was gunned down. The very next day, another mayor was assassinated. The fact is that Mexico has one of the highest murder rates now in the world. Let's see here. Mexico's homicide rate is among the highest in the world, and it remains a dangerous place for women, with figures showing around 10 women are murdered every day. More than 100,000 people remain missing in the country with no explanation of their fate. According to a think tank in Mexico, around 95% of all crimes nationwide went unsolved in the country in 2022. So you say, that you're concerned about this woman. I am too, but I also believe that it's been this current president that's allowed these cartels to really take over Mexico. And if she's been the right-hand person of him,
she's basically anointed by the cartel is what
that's
what
it's looking like. That's what it's looking like here.
Yeah.
So that's right across the border. That's what's happening over there. And all this crime we've known about because the cartels have been infecting our border with fentanyl and this human trafficking. And now we know how these systems work. Now, I was watching Joe Rogan the other day, and he was talking about how close are we here in America to that?
Why do you think we got open borders?
Well, that, and then you take a look at how they've used lawfare to win this election.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like, you know, when I saw what happened to Trump and how they rigged that, that was a political, a technical assassination attempt, not an assassination on his life, but an assassination. So you move him out of the way, so he's ruined. But it didn't work. The Trump campaign, by the way, has collected over $200 million in the first 72 hours of that conviction. And to put that into perspective, they had made $59 million in donations the whole year up until that point. And then boom, in 72 hours, 200 million.
Yeah, I think those dummies on the far left with that, I don't know. I don't know what to say about this. This happens through usurping our educational system and then indoctrinating kids. These kids grow up to become teachers and then infiltrate the political system. What I'm trying to say is they are too dumb to realize that this incredibly obvious seizing of our court system, of the legal system to virtually assassinate a political opponent, just basically ensured his election. Trump, I'm talking.
It seems that way. It seems that way. And, you know, something else to consider as I was talking about the declaration, I read some of it earlier, the signers, I think there's 54 signers on there. Once they signed that document, these are wealthy people, people of means, much like Donald Trump. They were younger. Most of them were much younger than that. But they signed their death warrant when they signed that Declaration of Independence. The king put an order out to have them hung. And that means that all of those guys that signed the Declaration of Independence were convicted felons. And, you know, this whole notion of, are you going to vote for a convicted felon? Well, the whole country was founded by convicted felons. So maybe we should be thinking about that.
Well, not enough of us.
I personally don't think the moniker convicted felon is harming Trump at all. In fact, to your point, I think it's adding gasoline to his campaign. I certainly want to say this, that we only have two choices, and I don't believe in tyranny. And one candidate has demonstrated a tyrannical taste, and the other one, I haven't seen that. And so it seems clear the direction that we need to take here. Whether you like the guy or not, we're voting on our future in America. Is America going to stay America? Because right now it doesn't look like America at all.
No, I agree. If Trump doesn't win this election, I will be fully on board with the election fraud theory at that point.
Yeah, and then we have to look at what else it says in the Declaration of Independence after that, because the founders give specific instructions that, you know, whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, which is government of the people, by the people, and for the people, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. It goes on to say that it is your responsibility and it is your duty to do that. So these are things that we as American people need to think very soberly about as we go into this election season.
No, I agree. I don't know what to add to that other than the problem that we have with this left domination that's going on is the indoctrination that has happened at a very young age for a very long time, which we've only recently become aware of, and the whole postmodern kind of let's twist everything around and redefine everything. Let's try to save democracy by by installing a totalitarian government. I mean, it's insanity. I mentioned that earlier.
It really is. Yep.
It's totally insane. If you can accept the insanity of it, why? Because Trump's a bad man. Because you're supposed to hate Trump that much that, right. Any means necessary. And they will say that any means necessary is justified. So that's where we're at. I mean, we're dealing with insanity.
Yeah. We really are. And we've had a civil war here in this country before over these kinds of principles. And I was over Memorial Day, I was looking at the Gettysburg Address and reading what Lincoln said at the end. And here he is standing at this amazing point in history there in Gettysburg a few months after the battle had ended. And if you really think about this battle, a lot of people don't study this, but it is the turning point of the war. Up until this point, the South had just dominated the North for years of the war. The North was getting their butts kicked. Gettysburg is very close to Washington, D.C., and this happens to be the high mark for General Lee. This is the closest he gets to Washington, D.C. He wins this battle, and it's game over. They're marching into D.C., and they're taking over. However, their secret weapon was Stonewall Jackson. Stonewall Jackson was just an amazing strategist and confounded the North every single time. They rarely lost any battles as a result. Stonewall Jackson, a couple of weeks before this Gettysburg battle happens, is out roaming around the camp at night. He decides to take a walk over by the river, and the sentries see him, think that he's an enemy, and shoot him dead. He's done. Well, that's how they lost the Gettysburg battle. And they changed the whole tide of history as a result. It seems like a divine intervention happened right there. Now, here's Lincoln standing there. An unbelievable amount of people died during this battle, something like 50,000. They were still cleaning up bodies that were on the battlefield when Lincoln was there. That happened for years after the battle, by the way. They actually have pictures of that. Lincoln is saying, and I'll paraphrase, that these dead who had given the last full measure of their devotion did not die in vain. We've got a job to do. We are going to save this government of the people, by the people, and for the people, and it shall not perish from the earth. And so that's it. When you think about the people that had given their last full measure of devotion, that is an extremely high price to pay for liberty and freedom. It is the highest price. And this is something that Lincoln is saying won't perish from the earth. And I believe that. I believe that's true. And I believe that God is behind that. When you take a look, as we read the Declaration of Independence, that's who they're talking about. God is the one that's given us these liberties, these freedoms, these privileges. And these miracles keep happening. The whole history of this country is based on these amazing miracles. How could a ragtag bunch of farmers beat the most mighty military apparatus in the world who had reigned for 1,000 years before that? It's not possible.
Guerrilla warfare. That's how
we have. But guerrilla warfare can't bring down. I agree that was a great tactic. But if you take a look at the real history of what happened, it was not that alone. Things came together. Things that happened that should not have happened all throughout that battle, all throughout that war. Even the culmination of it, where the French show up at the last battle, trying to remember what the name of it was, but their Navy shows up at the last minute, boxing in Cornwallis so that there was no escape for them. They would have gotten away had the French not shown up. They didn't have radios back then. Are you around the corner? Come around the corner. See, you know what I mean? Like, these are miracles that happen. Yeah. And as you look at our history, it seems like it's not necessarily that we're such great people, but God's got a plan for this country. And I don't believe he's done with us. And I have hope that we're going to turn this thing around, Barry. And I believe that it's going to be people like you and me that are trumpeting the truth that are going to save the day here. So I'm glad I'm with you, brother.
Yeah, I hope you're right about that. We're in a very precarious spot right now. And this upcoming election is gonna really bring things to a head, and we'll see what happens. I don't know. So let's wind up. I have a really good inspirational story to end with. Before I do, I just want to say, please, guys, if you like our content, sign up at over50startingover.com. Get on our email list, and we'll get this to you as it happens. Like and subscribe with us at YouTube, but you don't have to watch. Just go to Apple Podcast, subscribe there, listen to us when you're in the car and shopping at the gym and all that stuff. That's what I do. But don't forget to give us a 5 Apple rating. And Spotify, never mentioned that. We're on Spotify. You got both audio and video there. Get it as you like. So please do that. With that, I want to mention this. This is a story that went viral, and I'm going to paraphrase the beginning and get to the point. This is a girl that she just got broken up with by her boyfriend. Her boyfriend broke up with her in their driveway. Her father witnessed the whole thing. She's devastated, absolutely devastated. And this is my second story of baby girl. It starts out with, hey, baby girl, here's some perspective from your old man. I've had lots of relationships, one-night stands, flings, friends with benefits, girlfriends. Finally, I met your mother. And he goes on to say, none of this could have happened. Like, I could have never met your wonderful mother if I didn't go through all this stuff. And it's rather long, but here he ends up with, he says, let me just give you this one final piece of advice. Dude, this is so good. This is why I'm sharing this, is you guys should share this with your daughters, your sons, your granddaughters and sons. He says, there are cows and bulls in this life. When a cow sees a storm, they run away from it. What ends up happening is they end up being tortured by the storm longer, as they're actually keeping themselves in the storm longer. However, when a bull sees a storm, they run towards it, facing the onslaught head on. And initially, it's terrible, but they are strong and they can weather the storm. And because they ran towards it, they were able to endure it, and the storm passes them quickly as they are soon in a peaceful place. So be the bull. Lean into your storm, embrace and suck it up and let it fill you up. You are strong enough to endure, and very soon you will be at peace, still on your path, achieving your goals, and with all the time still in surplus. Love, Dad.
I love that. What great advice that is, to use that occasion to teach such a great lesson. Wow.
Yeah. A couple comments, because this went viral. Somebody says, genuinely the sweetest thing I've ever seen. Another shared, your dad just fixed a little part in me. Thanks for sharing. I'm so sorry. Another says, I'd get "so be the bull" tattooed on my body somewhere after that. So, yeah, it was really good stuff.
I love that. I was thinking about a time when I was a freshman in high school, and my girlfriend broke up with me, and I was so devastated.
Yeah.
And it just happened. And I heard the garage door go up, and it was my dad. And he came walking through the door, and I went over to him. I said, "Hi, Dad." He goes, "What's wrong with you?" And I said, "So-and-so just broke up with me." And he said, "Good." And he walked away.
There's a lesson for us. I'm not surprised.
Walk it off.
Yeah, right. Walk it, rub some dirt in it. Right. Yeah, but that's really valuable advice. Like, don't be the cow, run away from it, because your problems will persist. Run towards your problem.
And I love that, Barry. That's really good. I wouldn't be so screwed up if my dad had said that.
All right, guys. Merle, have a great weekend. Great to be back with you. Love you guys. All of you. Have a great weekend. Talk soon.
about that. Yeah, that's pretty cool, man. That's what I'm talking about right now. This one, I like this one a lot. It's a picture of a man in a prison, and there's a key on the floor and also a piece of bread, and
just outside of his reach.
And he's got a stick and he's trying to reach. He's got to look. This is interesting. He could reach for the key, Barry, and get the key and unlock that door and get out. But he's actually going for the bread desperately. And it says, if you keep them busy with basic needs, they'll forget all about the freedom they lost.
Oh my God, that just speaks to North Korea right there.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a political maneuver. Keep your people starving and then they'll always be looking for food and don't have the capacity to think about rebellion and their freedom. That's a really good one right there.
I've looked at this 3 times now, and this is the first time that I noticed that there was a key next to the bread and that he was completely ignoring the key.
Well, when you start explaining it, the light bulb went on above my head. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, this is starting to happen here in America. And we're seeing how it's the frog in the pot, where it's slowly starting to boil. Mm-hmm. You start hearing about supply chain issues. You start hearing about inflation and bailouts and those kinds of things. And when our real freedom doesn't come from people giving us a fish.
In the debate, Dave won 96% to 4%. Dave goes